each one of you on the screen. If you have not seen the mirror, how will you recognize your own picture? If you have not experienced love, how will you realize God? Body is connected with life, and the connector is breath. Soul is connected with God, and the connector is love. Love is a highway where one end is soul and the destination end is God. One who has not experienced love in his life has only lived his life outwardly. He has never lived his life inwardly. Love is God's energy present in your soul. One who has not experienced love, or one who has not lived his life with love, then maybe his body lives, his mind lives, but certainly his soul is dead. There was an American psychologist and a professor. His name was Robert Sternberg. He was from the Cornell University. He said there three components are essential to make it love. The three components were emotional intimacy, passion, and commitment. So he said these three elements must be present: emotional intimacy, passion, and commitment. When these three forces, they interact, perfect love is created. But then this definition is more relevant probably in the Western world. In the East, we did not follow this kind of definition. Almost all the masters, all the monks, all the poets have spoken or written something on love, but none of them expressed love in these terms. Undoubtedly, love is the deepest feeling and realization. And if you want to go inside yourself, the only gate is love, and there is no other gate. In the Eastern world, we don't have something called commitment. Part of love is not commitment. Because we believe love is a liberator. Love liberates you. Love gives you freedom. Love does not confine you to certain boundary. There is no commitment when it comes to love. That, okay, you have to do this, this, and this. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. On a lighter side, it may be said in the West, when they, even nowadays, when they go for marriage, they make a written contract that what will happen on separation. So, I mean, you cannot really call it love. If you have to go into love by making a contract, I mean, certainly it is not love. Now, when I say there is no commitment, there is no binding, there is complete freedom. When we talk about love, love means you are in complete freedom. And second most confused aspect about love is that if you love somebody, then you are attached to that person. Now, this is again a misnomer. It has been very clearly spoken by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, and many other monks and saints have spoken a lot about this. We all understand physical attachment. We all understand. To some extent, we get confused when it comes to emotional attachment. What happens is, if you truly love somebody, and if that person is in trouble, and you are emotionally attached, what happens? You also get into trouble. If the other person is sad, you also feel sad. If the other person is happy, you also feel happy. So that is emotional attachment. Other person falls in a ditch. What do? You keep watching him and keep crying because you are emotionally attached. See, one interesting thing about this attachment is people are often confused. Oh, if I'm not attached, then how do I manage? If I love my child, and if I'm not attached to my child, how would I manage my child? I mean, sounds very difficult to digest. We are saying that you don't be attached. We are not saying that you don't be involved. You have to be involved with the child. You have to help him get up in the morning. You have to help him do the homework. You have to make his tiffin, and you have to do everything. That is involvement. If you keep a governess at home who does everything for the child, she's not attached to child, mind you, but she does everything for the child. At times, she does even better things than anybody else in the family can do. But she's not attached with the child. But she's completely involved. If you are not involved, that means you are irresponsible. So you must understand this difference between attachment and involvement. Don't be attached to your child. Don't be attached in a relationship. So when we talk about love, in Bhagavad Gita, when we have spoken about love, we always said that yes, you should be detached. Don't be attached. Now, we have come across people who go to these, what do you call them? Counselors. When there is some problem with you, behavioral problem or some kind of issue, when you have relationship issue, whom do you go to? You go to a counselor. You think there's nobody at home who can advise you. There's nobody at home who's more intelligent. There's nobody at home. Somebody at home who's been seeing you for the last 20 years, they could not understand you. And you go to a counselor, that person will understand you in 2 days. This is your basic assumption. There's nothing wrong with that assumption. There's nothing wrong. See, why that assumption is correct? Because that other person is not attached to you. That's why he or she can play the role of a counselor. In a problem of husband and wife, husband may be PhD, husband may be very intelligent, very sharp, everything plus. But then he's attached. So his advice does not carry meaning. So you go to a counselor who how does he know about you? You go and tell him your story. oh, this happened, then this happened, then this. You give him all the inputs, and possibly all the counselors. In counseling, one of the most beautiful things, the answers are also given by the patient. Patient only tells him everything about himself, herself, and the solution also. Then he will reword those same solution and tell you, and you will accept it. Dr. Then is smiling. Would you like to say something?
Very true, Arunji. What you say is very true. So I just relate with an experience. Thank you.
Great. So, because people at home, they are attached to you. Anybody who's attached to you cannot be your good advisor. Because attachment is a problem, because attachment will create expectation, and then so many more things will happen. A counselor is not at all attached to you, and on the other hand, he or she is charging you for per session. So this emotional attachment should not be there. If you love somebody, the problem can start if you are attached to that person. You can be involved. You can be passionate. You can be, even passion will come to this word. Even passion in the Eastern philosophy, even passion is not recommended. Passion is one stage lower than awareness. Higher than passion is awareness. You see, when it comes to emotional attachment, often you will find in today's world, husband and wife or mother and son and all, they often say, I need space. Now, this is a new concept. When I was growing, I had never heard this word. I need space. I need my privacy. These words we did not know. You must knock the door before you walk in. We had never heard these words. Nobody ever knocked the door before they entered my room in the whole life. Now I've heard all these things. These are very new concepts. I need my space. This is a wonderful, whenever I hear that, it gives me a lot of laughter. So if you want to be emotionally independent, don't be attached. If you want to help your family, don't be attached. You love somebody, and if you're not emotionally attached, you can be a true friend. You can be a true helper. You can do a lot for the person. Because if the person, for instance, a person meets with an accident, you are totally attached. What will happen? You'll also collapse. You'll faint. This is what will happen. You'll also faint. You're seeing a person that he's bleeding, now you faint. Now, can you help him by fainting? You cannot. How can you help him? If you're not emotionally attached, yeah, you'll pick him up, you'll take him to the hospital, you make few calls, you'll arrange things, you'll do so many things. So, it's a misnomer to believe that if you love somebody, you must be truly attached to that person. No, it's not correct. It's not at all correct. And when we talk about unconditional love, even unconditional love wouldn't be possible if you're attached. If you're attached, then so many conditions are attached. So when we talk about unconditional love, so this is very, very important to understand that you must not be attached. You should be detached. Now, this seems a bit contradictory, but this is not. This seems very contradictory that I'm in love with somebody and I should not be attached with that person. It sounds very ridiculous. But then this is how, if you approach, you are in a better world. Another point which comes to my mind is there's no reason when you say, I love so and so because. Now, the moment you say because, it cannot be love. I love that person because she's beautiful. No, this because means you don't love. I love that person because she loves me. Again, there cannot be a reason. There cannot be a logic. There cannot be a rule in love. So when people say, oh, she does not love me, then how can I love her? No. See, love is not a transaction. Love is not a business. Love is not give and take. We have to understand. Love is give and give. It's not give and take. It's one-way traffic. A mother loves a child without a reason, without a logic. Child keeps insulting her mother. Child keeps, bothering mother, but still she loves. Mother doesn't say, oh, the child doesn't love me, so I don't love him anymore. She doesn't say that. So there should not be any reason. So don't look for any reason that I fell in love because. No, there cannot be because. And one of the biggest killer in love could be your ego. Love links, ego unlinks. Love will pull you up, ego will pull you down. All the problems in a relationship happens because of ego. More than anything else, the problems are because of ego. This Hindi poet who said, Prem gali ati sankari, jame daw na samay. Two cannot exist together. If I exist, God does not exist. If God exists, I don't exist. The two cannot exist together. So I have to remove my ego. Then only that love for God can happen. This ego is a root cause of all the problems in any kind of relationship. And at any given point of time, you cannot be into love, into worldly love, and also be in spiritual love. You can only be in one space. You can't say, I love so and so, and then at the same time you say, I also love God, I love Krishna. Now that is little difficult. You can only manage one at a time. So one is you have to get rid of either worldly love or you have to get rid of spiritual love. Then you will do justification, you will do justice to whichever you are clinging on to. And if there's an element of ego, you have to shed that ego, you have to get rid of that ego. Otherwise, it will sooner or later, it will damage your love. When you love somebody, you accept the person as he or she is. You have to accept that person as the person is. You cannot put conditions. Oh, you change like this, you do like this, you don't do like this. You have to accept the person as the person is. Because what happens is, when you don't accept a person as the person is, The whole world is not going to change for you. Whole world is not going to change. Nobody is going to change for you. Nobody. If somebody who has to change, you have to change yourself. If she would have changed like this and this and this, I would have loved her. This kind of sentence has no meaning. Either you accept her as she is or you reject her. That's it. There's no in between. There cannot be a conditional love. If this, then I love. If this, then I love. No, there cannot be. And as I told you, in love, you only think of giving. You only think of sacrificing. You only think of let go. You don't want to control the other person. You don't want to manage the other person. You don't want to, hold him tight. No, that's not the objective. That's because if you do that, the other person will feel stifled, will feel suffocated, and will try to get the first available opportunity to run away. So this is something, how do I put it? Little immature-ish. Love is giving and giving and giving. It's not, as I told you, give and take. You give me gifts, I should give you gifts. So it doesn't believe in reciprocation. And when it comes to love, and especially spiritual love, then there has to be surrender. You surrender to God. You totally submit yourself. You go with the flow. You don't hold yourself. Devotion does not start till you don't surrender. And when you surrender, what happens is, then you accept everything. Whatever happens, you say this is God's will because you have surrendered. You have totally surrendered. You don't have your own desire. So whatever happens, you accept it. There have been many monks and poets in India who have written volumes on love. One of them was Mirabai. Mirabai wrote many passages on Krishna and only on Krishna and nothing else. Now, she was so much in love. She was so much in love with Krishna. And she had so much of faith in Krishna. And she had surrendered to Krishna so much that even when poison was sent to her, she drank that poison and she did not die. That is the kind of faith she had in her lover. That was the kind of faith you have. Because what happens, that belief system works. Even if you take poison and you think this is nectar. So Mirabai drank that poison knowing it is poison and she did not die because she had that kind of love for Krishna. She said, if this has been sent, I'll take it as something sent by Krishna and I'll consume it. And he's my Lord. I love him. And let us see what happens. And she survived. Another poet we had was Ras Khan. He wrote a very beautiful passage. Many passages he wrote, but one of the passages where he wrote that these monks, these spiritual seekers have been meditating for ages. For hundreds of years they have been meditating and yet they could not attain Krishna. They could not achieve God. And they have been doing so much of spiritual practices. They have been meditating years after years, life after life, and nothing has happened. And look at these girls, these what do you call them? These dairy maids of Vrindavan. These dairy maids of Vrindavan, they are making Krishna dance for a little bit of buttermilk. If Krishna is asking for buttermilk, he was very fond of buttermilk. So these girls are telling him, okay, you dance, then we'll give you a little bit. And they're offering him in their palm. They're offering Krishna only this much of buttermilk in their palm, and Krishna is dancing for them because he wants to drink that buttermilk. Now look at this. Somebody who's been worshipping you, meditating on you, who's been spending lifetime on you, who's been praying you life after life, and you don't bother for that person. God did not bother for them. And here is a Lord of 3 worlds, Lord of Lords, just for so much of buttermilk, he's dancing. Now what is this? Nothing other than love. So you can bind God with love, not with your knowledge, not with anything else. If you want to bind God, if you want to impress God, it can only be through love. And if you want to be truly in love with Krishna, then you have to have, there's no reason. You don't want anything from him. You love him because you love him. There's no reason. Of course, there is no ego. As long as there is ego, the journey of love will not start even. So, the biggest devotees have been one who were in love with Krishna, and not one who were super intelligent or who had been meditating for ages. Not those, but the one who were in love with Krishna. These dairy maids of Vrindavan, they were not very literate. They were not meditators. They were purely in love with Krishna. And look at this. Just to get little bit of buttermilk, Krishna is dancing for them. These girls are saying, okay, you want buttermilk? He says, yes. Okay, then dance, show us the dance, then we'll give you a little bit. Look at that. One who's managing the whole universe, he's at your beck and call, just because of your love. There are so many stories in Bhagavatam. Even we know the story of, what's his name? I'm forgetting the name. Bhishma Pitama. No, Bhishma Pitama. Yes, Sabri. Yeah, we'll come to that. Thank you for reminding. Bhishma Pitama was one of the greatest devotees of Krishna. But in the war, he was on the other side. He was on the enemy side. Krishna was towards the Pandavas, and he was with the Kauravas. And he was a great devotee of Krishna. So look at this now. This is a very wonderful situation here. Bhishma Pitama, Krishna had said before the war that I will not lift any arms. I will not fight a war. I'll just be a passive spectator. I'll be watching, but I won't participate in the war. Very good. He made a vow. He said, no, I will not lift any arms in this war. Bhishma Pitama made a vow, who is an ardent devotee of Krishna, that Krishna, I will make sure that you lift arms. He took a vow. He made sure that, he said, I will make sure that you have to lift arms and participate in the battlefield. Wonderful. They both made a vow. Krishna made a vow. Vishnu Pitama made a vow. And Krishna is the Lord of the world. And Vishnu Pitama is just a devotee. One who loves Krishna. Now what happens in the war? if you fast forward and see, what happens is, at one point, Arjun is losing the battle. Arjun is about to lose the battle. And Bhishma Pitama is dominating. He's about to win. So Krishna loses his cool. He says, this is not done. He gets down from the chariot. He picks up the wheel of the chariot, the broken chariot wheel, and makes a Sudarshan. And he says, I'm going to finish you off. Krishna says. And the moment he does it, Bhishma Pitama leaves his arms and he surrenders and he bows in front of Krishna. He says, Lord, this is all I wanted to say. I don't want to win a war with you. I don't want to fight a war with you. You have done immense. You have done immense. You brought immense respect to me. And this is all I wanted to see, that I make you break your vow. That is all. I don't want to fight. I can fight with everybody in this world, but I can't fight with you. So you look at here, because Bhishma Pitama was in love with Krishna. Krishna broke his vow, but made sure that his devotee's vow is maintained. That is the power of love. He broke his own vow. There are many instances where Krishna broke his vow, but he cared for the vow of the devotee. Because the devotee wanted. He said, no, I can lose a war, it's okay, but I can't let my devotee lose. That's the power of love. If you love truly to God, God surrenders. The only way you can control God is through your love. There's no other way. There's no other way. There are many other instances. That story of Sabri is there. When Lord Ram went to visit her, she was picking up all those, what do you call?
Berries.
Berries. She was picking up and made sure that these berries are not sour. She was tasting each one of them and then giving it to Lord. She was testing each one. And if it is sweet, then she was offering it to Lord Ram. Now look at that. And Lord was accepting it. He was having it. With love, if you do anything towards God, He will accept it. There are no rules in love. There are no rules. There are no rules. There has been a great devotee in Vrindavan. He was a sweeper. I don't remember his name. He was a sweeper of the temple. Every night when the temple would close, what he would do, from the garbage bin, he would take out all the sweets and clean them up, decorate it in a plate and offer it to Krishna. And at that time, there was nobody in the temple because the temple would close at a particular time. And he was a sweeper. He would clean the temple and he would decorate that plate and offer it to Krishna with lots of sweets. And all the sweets he would take out from the garbage. Look at this. And he would offer to Krishna. It so happened that that sweeper was sacked by the management. They sacked him for some reason. Anyway, now what happened? The cleaning will be done by somebody else. 3 days after this incident, Krishna came in the dream of the head priest. And Krishna told him that I'm hungry for the last 3 days. You people don't give me anything to eat. He was totally surprised. He said, what are you talking, Lord? We have been offering you 6-7 times a day. We offer you food in the morning, in the little later, and then in the afternoon, then in the evening, and then in the night, and still you are hungry? Krishna says, yes, I'm hungry. You all did not give me any food. Anyway, so they got, the whole temple management got very upset. They wanted to know what has gone wrong with the temple. Why is Krishna saying he's hungry? We are giving him food and still he says, I'm hungry. What is this? This happened in the dream. Now what happened is, They started investigating that where did we go wrong? What has changed in last 3 days? Then they realized, oh, the sweeper has been sacked in last 3 days. This is the only difference which has happened in this. So the manager asked the sweeper, now tell me, were you doing anything inside the temple after the temple was being closed? He said, no, nothing. No. They said, no, you please tell us. We won't take any action against you. But you must tell us, what were you doing? So he said, if you all don't mind, let me share. I used to pick up all the sweets from the garbage bin, decorate it in a plate and offer it to Krishna every night. So that he told the priest and the priest started crying. He said, I offered food to Krishna 7 times a day and he did not accept it. And this sweeper who gave him refused food, which is thrown in the garbage, all that he picked up and arranged and gave it to Krishna, and Krishna accepted that. This is the power of love. You don't know that what can happen with your love. You don't know. So Krishna could accept the food given by a sweeper, a refused food, a food which was thrown away in the garbage bin. He could accept, but something which was given by the high priest, most knowledgeable priest, in the most appropriate manner, in the best of crockery, he did not accept. This is the power of love. And there are so many instances in Bhagavatam. There are many and many. There are so many instances where Jesus Christ talks about love. So many places he says, God is love, God is love. Now, the only route to reach to God is through your love. There's no other route. Your wealth will not help you, your knowledge will not help you, your position will not help you, nothing will help you. Only your honest love. Let us have some question and answer. Vibrational energy of love is 500. And vibrational energy of enlightenment is 700. So first you have to reach to the level of love. What happens when you reach to the energy of love? Then all the negativity in life, all those expectations, all the desires, everything drops because you have reached to the energy of love. The energy of love is 500. Dr. Hawkins, who wrote that book, Power versus Force, he gave these numbers. He carried out extensive research. Every emotion has an energy, has a vibrational frequency. And he spoke about love and many other emotions. As you keep growing, you are at a certain level. When you have compassion, you increase your energy. When you have love, you further increase your energy. When you are, you are in joy, you further increase your energy. So it goes on like that. He has given a chart. You can refer that chart when you have some time. You can look it up on the internet. He made a chart, and that chart is now almost accepted by everybody in this world. All the spiritual scientists have been following that chart very diligently. When we talk about devotion, what is devotion? It is your emotional oneness with God. It is your intellectual oneness with God. And it is your unselfish love for God. That's devotion. when you have no purpose with God and you still love him. You don't want to get anything from him, still you love him. You don't have any reason, but still you love him. You don't want any liberation from him and you love him. You love him without a reason. You love him without a purpose. And there have been devotees who said that, Lord, I don't want anything from you. Only thing I want from you is that I should unconditionally love you forever, forever. If I'm reborn, I love you unconditionally. That is all I need to be blessed with. Nothing else. So look at this. This is the power of love. So if you all practice this love, unselfish love, egoless love, then yes, it's very easy to attain Godhood. It's very easy to achieve, which seems impossible to achieve otherwise. Through your knowledge, through your other practices, you cannot achieve. Only through love you can achieve that which seems so impossible.